high atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Talking Catholic. I'm Jen Morrow, and with me today, as always, is Mike Walsh.
It's good to be with you again. And we're not in the vault. We are in a closed room, though, so that's nice.
It's fancy. They have nice chairs in here.
This might be the first podcast I've ever recorded in the chancery, as a matter of fact.
Have
I been here once before?
I've even been here with you.
Really? With our current guest, right?
We had with our current guest and the ladies when we had Dolores and Anna and Susan on.
Well, coming into this building always scares me, so maybe I was having some form of a mental block on it because everybody gives me work in this building. I avoid it.
I love this building. I feel like the cool kid when I get to come in. I'm like, I'm a cool kid. I'm going in the chancery. It's a neat building, nice people, really cool elevator. I have a weird elevator thing.
You do have a weird elevator thing.
Right.
Matter of fact, we were in the elevator the other day and you were checking it out to see if you could pop the roof of it just in case it got stuck.
Yes, I always do that, Die Hard style. Yeah. I need to make sure I have a quick getaway. I just discovered in the chancery elevator, there is a small, looks like a panel I could probably pop out, but I don't think I could personally get through it. So, unfortunately, I think I am larger than this hole in the ceiling. That's all right. You heard it first here.
You know what? It
Readers,
just means
listeners.
we need to always make sure there's a small child with you
Fair enough.
Whenever you're in the elevator.
That's true.
Because you have a weird fear of elevators.
It's not a weird fear. I don't fear it. I want to get stuck in an elevator. I want to see if I can Die Hard that and get up through it and climb up a thing. Anyway, we are getting way off topic.
No.
Let's talk about something spiritual.
I just want to make sure that you understand that, in fact, you are weird.
I know that.
Not regarding the fear.
No.
Okay.
I'm very well.
Let's talk about something spiritual, huh?
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be hard not to talk about something spiritual because by the time this episode is released, I will not be on this continent.
Yay!
I will be on a day. That came across.
Sorry,
peculiar.
That was really spontaneous,
but probably accurate.
Yes.
I will be on the Asian continent, I think. There you go. And then eventually I'll be on the European continent. But I am taking my first ever pilgrimage to the Holy Land. Well, my first ever pilgrimage, period. Mm-hmm. We are going to the Holy Land and to Italy. I'll be gone for 14 days. And while I'm gone, I plan to use the social media of the Catholic Star Herald, as well as Talking Catholic's social media, to do travel logs of our time away. So I have been given the opportunity to accompany one of Father Hughes's famous and beloved pilgrimages. He goes on them several times a year. COVID really put a crimp in his plans, but it's something. We run these promos in the paper all the time, and I always see them, and I always tell everybody I know who has time on their hands and a little bit of money to go on these things. And then it became possible for me to go, and I went, I feel like I'd be an idiot if I didn't take advantage of this opportunity.
It's true.
And since everyone I know thinks I'm a moron, I figured this was my only way of telling them that I'm not, or showing them that I'm not, by going on it. So, yeah. So while you're listening to this, I will not be here. Aren't you lucky?
I'm excited to hear what you report back from the travel logs. I'm hoping that as the time goes on over the 14 days, that we'll hear a soft side of Mike Walsh.
No, that's not going to happen. But I will be like a babe in the woods, or in this case, a babe in the desert, because I'm like any other typical Catholic in the sense that I have a kind of a basic understanding of Jerusalem and the Holy Land and Rome, and the other place we're going to is Assisi.
Yay.
And I'm really looking forward to it because I haven't. As I was telling one of the participants at a pre-pilgrimage meeting, I'm actually looking forward to going and smelling the place. I love traveling and smelling. Every place smells just a little bit different, and I'm curious to seeing what the Holy Land smells like.
I agree. Put down the travel log.
Okay.
I've never been to a desert like that before. So I'm very curious.
Well, I think one of the things we need to talk to our guest about and bring him on right now is the fact that are we misusing the word desert? Because I have a feeling there's some lush areas that we're going to as well.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
So who do we have with us today?
Oh, I'm going to get to
You get to do it.
I'm so
I know.
excited.
You get very excited about this.
I do.
Yes.
On the show today is Father Robert Hughes, and he is the Vicar General and moderator of the Curia for the Diocese of Camden. Hi, Father.
How you doing, Jen?
Good. I'm so excited to have you on. I also want to go on the record that is the first time I have never looked down at my paper when introducing any guest.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, 18 months here, and you can actually
That's right.
know who he is
That's
and
right.
say his name properly. And Father, I have to tell
That's
you
a big lift.
that's a big lift.
It's a heavy lift,
She
yeah.
screws up almost every introduction.
Nope.
There you go.
No.
Because she looks down.
Yeah, you know what? You're probably right. I overthink it. I like how Father gives me the benefit of the doubt, Mr. Walsh.
Well, I have to correct Mr. Walsh, too, because
Often.
he said he has never been on a pilgrimage, and that is not true.
Oh.
Because he has been to Washington, D.C. on pilgrimage with the diocese when we go to the National Basilica for our biannual pilgrimage.
In my defense,
Well played.
I've only been on that pilgrimage once, and it was just in October, and I have a Swiss cheese brain. But he's absolutely right. I've been on one pilgrimage. That is true. And didn't I talk about when I came back how I was overcome by all the spirituality there?
You did like it.
I really did
Yeah.
like it.
And remember you were surprised how much you liked it?
I was.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be your experience here. Because it's 14 days of being in some of the holiest places in the world. It's going to be great.
Yeah. The only downside is, the people.
Right.
Because I'm an introvert.
But let's let Father Hughes talk about
so
it.
14 days
Yeah.
on pilgrimage. You have convinced me to do this trek. I guess the first question is, and this is something that Jen has brought up to you once before in the paper, what is a pilgrimage and how does it differ from like a trip or a tour or something like that?
I think the difference between a tour or a vacation versus a pilgrimage is the intention. We go on vacation, we choose a location where we can relax and, maybe enjoy the sights or what have you. When we go on a tour, it usually means you're going on a tour that is cultural in nature. You go to experience, Paris or what have you, or maybe various capitals of Europe, or going to Machu Picchu, or the pyramids in Egypt or what have you, and that is to understand and learn about cultures and the history of a place and the various architecture and food and all that kind of stuff. A pilgrimage is different because it mimics what we do through life. And we believe as Christians that, from the moment of our baptism, we are oriented towards heaven and that we're making a journey there. And so a pilgrimage means going to places with people or on our own. Obviously you could do an individual pilgrimage, but generally, with other people, to travel to holy sites to deepen our faith and our understanding of who we are as beloved children of God, and to celebrate that and make our way.
You know what I also like about I've been on 2 pilgrimages, one with a group. I would say one by myself. Can you make a pilgrimage by
Yes, you
yourself?
can,
Because
yeah.
I went to Fatima by myself. It was a different planning experience. Like I wasn't packing for a vacation and going out. I was packing rosaries. I was mentally preparing myself to be in a place of self-reflection or being open to God. So I think that preparation is part of a pilgrimage. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And as Mike knows, and the pilgrims that are joining us, over the course of the year, everyone as they sign up, they get newsletters and other information to help them prepare to understand aspects of Jewish culture and Muslim culture, Palestinian culture, as well as things that are pertinent to our faith, and how they are grounded in Judaism, so that they're making slowly by reading these articles and reflecting on them, they're preparing their hearts for the pilgrimage, so that they're to have a sense of what they're going to experience in many places, and so.
And I want to give Father Hughes credit about that. The newsletters that are sent out are genuinely fascinating. He's not kidding that they are. It's not that there are newsletters that occasionally directly relate to where we're going, but most of it is so you really have an understanding of the people you're going to see, why they are the way they are, why they live their lives. It'll be a culture shock when you go over there because there are going to be so many differences. But anybody who goes on this pilgrimage and feels that they were not prepared, they didn't do the reading because it's great. It's very digestible. It's not. I mean, you're not reading deep academia. But yeah, so I think we're up to newsletter number 9 at this point.
I think so, yeah.
He also gave a great newsletter on how to pack, what to pack. I mean, you are prepared. And I will actually be spending, as we're recording this, I will be spending this weekend practicing packing my bag to make sure that, well, that was actually one of the tips of practicing, Father Hughes.
Yeah, you have to pack your bag at least twice because you pack it with all the things you think you need, then you unpack it and put half of it away.
Gotcha.
And then put what you actually need in your suitcase.
I usually do that about 4 hours before I'm supposed to walk out the door. So nice.
Well, you both are professional travelers. I don't. This will be the longest. This will be the longest trip I've ever been on. Never been. 10 days was my previous long trip. And that took me 2 pieces of luggage that the company was paying for and a lot of effort. And I'm going to try to do it all in one bag with some little...
You don't have a choice. You're only allowed to bring one.
I know, I'm only allowed to bring one. But I have these roll-up bags that it sucks. You put your clothes in it, then you roll up, suck all the air out of it.
Yeah.
And you can put... My worry now is, can I get 100 pounds into my supposed to be 50-pound max weight? So that's going to be the tricky part. But my plan is to wear all my heaviest clothes.
Yeah, that's a good plan.
Because when you're a person of size like myself, our clothes weigh a lot.
Now, are you bringing a coat or a jacket at all? Like, is that something you need there? Like, what's the weather over there? I know what the weather in Europe is, but what's the weather in the Holy Land?
Actually, we were just talking about this.
Right, we were just talking about it. The forecast right now has it in the Galilee in the upper 50s, low 60s, and in Jerusalem, the upper 40s, low 50s.
Okay.
So it'll be a little bit chilly. We're not out at night when it gets colder, because it is a desert climate. The temperatures can drop significantly at nighttime. My biggest concern is that everybody better be praying for no rain. That makes it not fun.
Yeah.
So you'll be bringing a coat.
Jen is making fun of me right now because I just bought a new coat. Remember I told you I have like 17 coats? I bought actually the 18th coat this past weekend, and I walk into Jen's office and she laughs out loud.
Describe the coat
out loud
before.
It's debonair and very stylish, quite manly if you ask me. It's a camel top coat. It's
a camel colored top coat. Yes.
And I walked into Jen's office. She laughs out loud, and she said that it looked like a lady's coat. Or a coat that a lady would wear.
Yes, I did.
And she made some other snide
Was it from
remark.
Zinman Vers?
No, I got it. Well, I would still wear it. First of all, I look great in ladies' wear. Second of all, and Father Hughes puts his hand over his eyes.
There was a look of amazement there.
And, no, I look at it. And, but
the goatee would actually be
really pairs that together
exactly
nicely.
Right.
But I will tell you, everyone else who has seen me in this coat said it's a very nice looking coat, and I look very manly in it. So only Jen's feels.
But there was a coworker who is a woman who said, "That's a nice coat. I should get myself one like that." I feel like that's a little bit in my camp.
You might have been vindicated. Yes,
right.
That's true. Anyway, yes. The thing that I am worrying most about on this pilgrimage is my clothing, to tell you the truth.
But as I say over and over again, you have to pack layers. Because we will have the bus with us every day. So in the morning, if it's chilly, you put on a sweater, a shirt, a sweater, and a jacket. And then if later in the day it's a little too warm, you can leave the jacket or the sweater in the bus, and you don't have to worry about it. So layers, layers, layers.
And you've also reminded us that there's no one to impress.
Exactly. This is not a fashion trip. There's no event that you have to be significantly dressed for. And if you end up wearing the same thing every day, that's fine.
I got news for you.
No judgment.
Probably will.
I probably will.
Yeah.
Because that's a line I'm not going to cross by telling that little story.
So let's talk about the trip.
So yeah, let's talk about the trip.
What is on the itinerary?
So the itinerary, we start off, we leave on February 9th and arrive there on February 10th. Which the very first cultural experience that the pilgrims will have is the fact that we arrive just before the beginning of the Sabbath. So we'll actually arrive in the morning, but the first real experience they're going to have of culture is the ending of the Muslim holy day, which is Friday, and then the beginning of the Jewish holy day, the Sabbath, on Friday evening. And of course, because it's Israel and the country is religiously Jewish, by culture, that it's mandatory. All of the Sabbath regulations are mandatory for the Jewish population. So there'll be no driving. Everything gets very, very quiet on Friday evening. So it's a very, very interesting experience. And the biggest experience that they'll have at some sites on the Sabbath is the Sabbath elevator. People have no idea. They get on the elevator. They're like, I don't understand. The elevator stopped at every floor. I'm like, well, you got on the Sabbath elevator because in Jewish tradition, you're not allowed to do anything that signifies fire. So electricity would signify fire. So you can't touch the elevator buttons. So the elevator just automatically goes up and down and stops at every floor in the hotel or the building. And people, they don't understand. I'm like, don't get on that elevator. The one next to it you can operate, but the Jewish people are not allowed to.
That's
so
amazing.
They have to use that elevator.
I have never heard that.
Oh yeah, they exist in New York. I'm sure Philadelphia has some.
Well, since we just established I have an elevator thing, I'm going to find the nearest one and ride that elevator.
You know what? I promise while I'm in the Holy Land, I will take the Sabbath elevator.
You will?
And tell you about it.
Thank you. I can't
There
wait.
you go.
That is fascinating, though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so right off the bat, you're going to be having cultural experiences.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And then on the first couple of days we spend in the Galilee. So that's the northern part of Israel, around the Sea of Galilee. We're actually staying in the town of Migdal, which is the hometown of Mary Magdalene. And we're staying at the Hotel Magdalene, or Magdala. But so the first full day that we're there is dedicated to the celebration of the mystery of the Annunciation. So we actually start in Caesarea Maritima, which has nothing to do with the Annunciation, but it's the furthest place we have to go in that part of Israel. And because it's a Sabbath and there's no traffic, it's very easy to accomplish that. So we go there. We go to...
And what is Caesarea?
Caesarea Maritima was the Roman port that was built. It was a very, very big city at the time, has a huge arena, a stadium, and then there was an imperial palace there that was, I don't know that the Roman emperor ever made it there, but the governors of the territory of Palestine, they lived there. And it's pretty cool. I mean, they're all ruins now, but they actually even had a pool, so the seawater would fill this pool.
Oh, wow.
And so it was very, very interesting. And so you just see the Roman culture there. Obviously, the site is mentioned in the scriptures, especially in the letters of St. Paul, because that's where he departed to go on his journey to Rome when he was captured. And then we go from there to Mount Carmel in the city of Haifa. And we see the site of the beginning of the Carmelite order. Then we go to the Baha'i Temple, which is a very interesting thing. I mean, people don't understand or necessarily know too much about the Baha'i faith, but they are very dedicated to order and organization, and they have beautiful, beautiful gardens. So that's what everybody goes to see, these terrace gardens that exist in Haifa. Then we'll go across to Cana, and have a visit at the site of the wedding feast of Cana. And the people who are on the pilgrimage who are couples and are married, will have the opportunity to renew their marriage vows there and get a little certificate. And
What?
yeah, it's a nice thing. But don't buy the Cana wine. Okay, everybody on the street will try to sell you Cana wine. It is the most awful thing you've ever tasted, but they don't care because they know you're not going to drink it in front of them. So they sell it to you. You get back to the hotel, you decide to open the bottle, and you're like, "What did they sell me?"
Oh,
they know
wow.
you're never coming back to Cana again, so they can get away with it. And then we go to Nazareth, and the rest of our day will be spent in Nazareth. We'll have lunch there. With a shawarma or a falafel, and then we'll go to visit the Basilica of the Annunciation, see the site of the Annunciation. As Many shrines are multi-leveled because they had to be excavated. So the lowest level of the basilica is the ancient ground level at the time of Joseph and Mary, and so you can see the site where the Annunciation took place. And then we will go from there up the hill to the Church of St. Joseph, which is built over a shop that existed. Now, everybody calls Joseph a carpenter. The real title for him is a tecton, and because they would not have made much out of wood. He mostly probably was more like a mason, making things out of stone. And it's a stonemason's workshop that the Church of St. Joseph is built over. And people will be surprised because of the proximity. These things are, the Basilica and the Church of St. Joseph are maybe, if it's 100 yards away. The town was very small. At the time of Joseph and Mary, they estimate the population was 100 to maybe 150. So it was a very, very, very small town. So when he questions why the Blessed Mother is expecting, he's got to prove himself in front of everybody in the village knows the two of them. Yeah. So it was a big concern. But anyway, that first full day is spent commemorating the Annunciation and the importance of that event. The next day, which is a Sunday, we go to we do the tour around the Sea of Galilee. So we will start off at the Mount of Beatitudes, which of course was just last Sunday's gospel, and the Sermon on the Mount, which took place very near to where the Mount of the Beatitudes is, which is the gospel for the next couple of Sundays coming up. So that's a beautiful, beautiful, peaceful place, and you have such a spectacular view of the Sea of Galilee. And the sisters in our diocese who live at Glassboro and have served at Holy Savior in Westmont, St. Jude's in Blackwood, and at St. Michael's in Clayton, those sisters, they have custody of the shrine at the Beatitudes. So we'll run into some of the sisters who are familiar with our diocese and say hello to them and things like that.
Matter of fact, I saw Sister Bianca the other night and was with Bishop, and Bishop mentioned it to her, and she came right at me, and she was like, "Oh, Michael," I can't do her accent. I wish I could. She was like, "Oh, Michael, you have to go. You have to say hello to all my sisters for me. It's a wonderful experience. You're gonna love it there." I'm very much looking forward to it. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
And they are the nicest sisters. They're the
Franciscan missionaries of the Immaculate Heart of Mary.
Thank you. A lot of words.
Yeah. So we go from there down to along the Sea of Galilee, where we will stop at the site of the multiplication of loaves and fishes, the site of where Jesus said to Peter that that you are the church, or you are the rock, and on that rock I'll build my church. And we go to the site of where Jesus had breakfast after the resurrection at the Sea of Galilee, where he was barbecuing fish for the disciples for breakfast. And so we go to those sites, and then we will, at some point during that day, we will have, I think we have Mass. I forget which church we have Mass in at that point, but we have Mass in Capernaum. Sorry, we start off in Capernaum, and we have Mass there at St. Peter's house, and but then the rest of the day, at one point, we'll stop for St. Peter's Fish. They always arrange a lunch there that has all different kinds of Israeli and Palestinian cuisine, but it's capped off by having St. Peter's Fish. Then the next day we go after the Eagles win the Super Bowl. We'll be up very early in the morning to watch that.
And I will say, yes, Father Hughes is making plans so that all of us Eagles fans will have that opportunity, which I'm so excited about.
Yes.
You should do one of the travel logs while you watch the game.
I can almost guarantee you that will be the case.
That
will no doubt be on the Talking Catholic stuff, and some of them may be live videos of us losing our minds or lamenting. Who knows?
Yeah. No, we're not going to be lamenting. We're going to be on the way to Mount Tabor the next morning, very happy at the Eagles win, and we will early in the morning climb, to the top of Mount Tabor, have Mass at the Basilica of the Transfiguration. And then have a beautiful view of the Jezreel Valley, and then we will head down to Jerusalem. So Monday evening we end up in Jerusalem, and then the itinerary there could change because it all depends on what's happening in various places. But one day will be dedicated to the visitation of the visitation of Our Lady to Elizabeth, which is in a town called Ein Karem, and then we will go to Bethlehem in the afternoon on that day. So we'll cross into the Palestinian territory, which is an experience for Americans because you see, a very interesting crossing because the Israelis are very strict about who can go in there. Because we're Americans and we're on pilgrimage, they will permit us to do so. And then coming back, they will again question us. Usually, I have to hand over my passport to prove that we're Americans. And anyway, while we're in Bethlehem, everybody will see a very, very, very congested city. It's probably one of the largest Palestinian communities in that area. And but we go to Shepherd's Field, where the angels appeared to the shepherds. And then we will have Mass in the basement of the Catholic Church of Saint Anne or Saint Catherine, that is next to the Basilica of the Nativity. We have it in a chapel called the Chapel of Saint Jerome, because it's where Saint Jerome lived and translated the scriptures into the Latin language. But the wall where the altar is up against the wall. On the other side of that wall is the place where Jesus was born. Wow. So you don't know that when you're in there until you go to the basilica and go down the steps and go into the many of the Orthodox churches have custody of the basilica of the Nativity. So the Catholics are forced into a different area, but we're allowed to enter it and reverence it. It's just that our masses take place on the other side of the wall. Mm-hmm. Then we come back, have an evening, and then the next day we go to Bethany and the Dead Sea. So we go down into the desert, and you were asking about the desert. Yeah. It literally is what you perceive a desert to be. I mean, they are sand dunes and wadis or dry riverbeds, all along the road from Jerusalem down to the Sea of the Dead Sea, and the Jordan River. And it's amazing because the grade on the highway that goes down there is so significant that the bus can't travel quickly because it has to be in low gear in order to make the incline.
Holy moly.
And same thing coming back up. It's not a far distance. It just takes a while because the buses can't go quickly as they're trying to use all their power to make it back to Jerusalem. But one day we go to Jericho while we're down there. And we go to the site of the baptism of the Lord on the Jordan River, which is really nice because that's a recently added feature of pilgrimages, because the site was off limits because of the mining, the mines that were placed there during the difficulties that Israel had with Jordan. But after the peace treaty that worked out between those two countries, they cleared all the mines and have made a safe passage, and they actually built a place where people can go and see the river. Everybody has the same comment. The Jordan River, we think of the Delaware and how big the Delaware River is. The Jordan River, you could almost walk across. It's so small. Huh. It's a tiny little creek. It might be, I don't know, 30 feet across at most, if it's even that. Of course, it depends how much rain they've had. But and it's a very, very muddy river. You would never expect that the water was this muddy. And but nonetheless, we dip water. We dip something into the river to get the water. We renew our baptismal promises, and Bishop, because he'll be with us, he'll be the one who sprinkles us with water to renew our baptismal promises. And then we go down to the Dead Sea, where people can have a float in the Dead Sea, and it's quite
debating it. I haven't
you have to
yet.
do it.
You have to do it.
You do.
You have to do it. Yes.
Listen, look at the size of me. I float everywhere. It's.
Yeah, but you don't float like this.
Yeah, this is going to be totally different.
Fine. I don't have that much space in my luggage. Plus, I'm supposed to bring really ratty sneakers that I will immediately throw away.
Yes.
Why is that?
Because the the bottom of the Dead Sea is all mud. So whatever you wear, and you have to wear some sort of footwear because there are old trees and stumps and things like that are down there.
Okay.
Plus there are rocks and salt formations that could cut your foot. So you definitely have to wear good footwear or protective footwear, but they're unusable afterwards.
Immediately get
you're
rid
not
of
putting
them.
these in your suitcase, so they go into the nearest trash
Yeah,
can.
you can't wash whatever it is. The mud just sticks to everything.
Yeah.
So it's like you got to chuck it.
Well, and you have no place to wash them. Like
true,
if
too.
you were at home, you might be able to salvage them. But when you're on pilgrimage, you're just not going to have a place to be able to even do that. So,
But you did say that there are people who go specifically for the mud, not from a spiritual standpoint, but that there are those who believe that there are healing.
there absolutely are. All the minerals that are in the Dead Sea. Like I said, just floating, even if you don't touch the mud, just floating, your skin will feel different for a day or two because of the way that the minerals have worked with your skin. But if you then take the treatment and literally rub mud all over yourself, let it dry, and then rinse it off, then it's even more. And you'll go, all the shops that are around the Dead Sea, they all sell the mud in containers to bring home, and they all different kinds of cosmetic products that have Dead Sea stuff in it, So and they try to make sure that you purchase as much as you can.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
It weighs so much, you're not taking it home.
I was about to say.
There'll be some ladies that do.
Well, they'll have a little extra room. They're getting rid of their shoes.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I'm adding a note to my pilgrimage file that says pack sneakers and swim trunks. Okay.
And then, then the last 2 days that we're in Jerusalem, one we spend on the Mount of Olives, where you can overlook it's the famous picture people see of Jerusalem, where you can see the Dome of the Rock, squarely. We'll get our nice pictures there. But we visit while we're there the site of the Ascension of the Lord, the site where Jesus taught the Our Father to his disciples. And then we do something really beautiful. It's called the Palm Sunday route. And it's the road or the way in which Jesus entered the city of Jerusalem from the Mount of Olives. And so it's a very steep hill down. So again, we hope it's not raining because then it's slippery. But there is literally a railing all the way along the wall for anybody who needs it. But you make your way slowly, and we stop at the first site halfway down the mountain is called Dominus Flevit, which is the site where Jesus wept over the city of Jerusalem. And then we continue our route down and end up at the Garden of Gethsemane and the Church of All Nations, which is the shrine there. And we actually have Mass in the Church of All Nations. And that's always a very, very emotional day for people. When you look at the rock where Jesus knelt, and said, "Your will be done," it's really a moving experience for everybody. You can't help it. You feel that Jesus did this for you, and you that sense of being overwhelmed by that is very, very powerful. So it's a very beautiful experience. But people, some people will cry, some people will just be very silent, and it's like I said, a beautiful experience. And then we go to the Western Wall. We go to Mount Zion and to the Western Wall. So the Western Wall is the remaining foundations of the original temple, the Temple of Jerusalem. So they're the very enormous rocks that were placed to keep as a retaining wall to make sure that the top of the mountain there, would not collapse. Obviously, the top of the mountain is where is an Islamic shrine. There are two mosques on top of there. One, the Dome of the Rock, and then a second mosque. Can't think of the name of it offhand. So that is off limits to Jewish people. Are not allowed to go up there generally, and Christians can go up there. But the length of time it takes to go through security makes it next to impossible. Wow. Years ago, when my first pilgrimage to the Holy Land, we were able to go up there easily. Yeah. But now, there's very, very tight security. So instead, people, men and women, will have the opportunity to approach the wall. Many people call it the Wailing Wall because that's where Jewish people go to pray and to leave little notes on the walls. Men go to one side on the left, women go to the different side on the right, and you'll experience a whole new thing of the way the Jewish people worship, where they stand very close to the wall and they're praying, but they kind of rock back and forth as they pray, and having left their intentions, they say prayers there. There probably will be a bar mitzvah happening, or a bas mitzvah happening. So you see those events, families, escorting their young men or women, carrying the scrolls, and it's really, really cool to see, to see that. And that's a day. It's such a busy day that frequently we have no lunch that day, and so you end up buying this right outside of the square. You buy this bread that it's like a big ring, but it's bread. It's not a donut or anything like that. And so a couple of people buy them. We all share them, so you have a little bit of something to eat. And then we go up the hill to the Church of St. Peter in Galicantu, which is where the rooster crowed after Peter denied the Lord 3 times. And you go, that's a really cool place to go. It was the house of Caiaphas, and in the basement there is the dungeon where Jesus was kept. Wow. So you actually can go down into the dungeon, and there we usually pray one of the Psalms, about being in the deeps, and then we go from there to the Basilica of the Assumption, and we visit the location of the Assumption of Mary, and then that finishes that day. And then our final day is the Via Dolorosa, where we get up at well before sunrise, make our way to the starting point of the Via Dolorosa, and then we do the Stations of the Cross, the last several of which end up in the Church of the Holy Sepulchre. So we climb up at the end, to the site of the crucifixion, and then make our way to the tomb, where at 6 a.m. we're scheduled to have Mass inside the tomb. So the bishop will be the presider of Mass, and while Mass is being celebrated, all the pilgrims can come in. Only 2 or 3 people can fit in the actual tomb, but then one by one they can come in, and then you literally have to crawl in because it's a very small opening, and crawl in. They can visit for a minute and then back themselves out, so that everybody gets the opportunity to have that experience.
I think it's important to note, first off, I'm just completely imagining myself as you've described all of this, walking on that path, because you've done an amazing job of describing everything. But I think it's important to note the timing that y'all are going to be over there, because this is leading up to Lent.
Correct.
So you're walking these holy paths at a time that, and then a couple days later is Ash Wednesday.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, we go at this time. I usually go at this time every other year when we do the pilgrimage, mostly because of the weather. Because once you get into the middle of March, it really starts to get hotter and hotter, and then it also gets much more crowded. So as Lent progresses and approaches Easter time, the city of Jerusalem can be so crowded that it's difficult to actually see the various shrines. So we have the blessing of being at a downtime, because we're between Christmas and Lent. So we kind of have many of the shrines to ourselves, which is a nice thing. Although tourism is way up in Israel right now, so we will run into other groups for sure, because the tour company that I use, 206, they have several pilgrimages at the same time that we're there. So
That's a good thing, though.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Church Universal. You're going to run into other faithful people.
Yep.
Make new friends.
No,
Not you.
Don't
Not
ruin it. All right.
But it's going to be great.
No, it is. It's nice, though, because at the hotel, because the hotels that we'll stay in, 206 will have other groups there. So you'll meet a group from California, a group from Michigan, and it is kind of interesting to interact with all of them and see their experience and talk to them and everything. Yeah. So it's good. And
we haven't really talked about it too much, but Mike, you alluded to it. Father Hughes has created a a packet for everybody to have.
A journal,
A
yeah.
journal. Included in that is a page for every day that you're traveling, because
Right.
I think that, and I read it a little bit, I think journaling is so important when you're on a trip like that, for reasons you mentioned in there. You'll forget. You'll forget the little things that happen.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, there's 4 pages dedicated to each day.
Okay.
Right? And it tells a little bit about what we are doing on that day, so you remember when you get home what we did on that day. But then it asks you questions like, what is on the first day? What is your first impressions of Israel? Just jot them down. What did you think when you arrived? Highlights of the food. What are the weather notes? And then a funny thing happened, like what was funny that you experienced, and then there's a set of pages, as Jen noted, that are blank for personal reflection. So there's just lines there and a prayer to say while you're journaling, and each day has 4 pages dedicated like that.
I love it.
It also has great maps in it, and
Puzzles. There's
puzzles and games.
Sudoku, and
there's some long bus rides.
Yeah, well, bus rides, the plane ride. I always make them laugh, because what is the prayer for the flight? When you get on the plane, the prayer is, "Oh my God, I'm heartily sorry for having offended thee." Say that, Patricia, before that plane takes off, right?
That's right.
But yeah, so there's information to be recorded for each day, and games and puzzles. Fast facts about Israel, and even like the phrases that you say. So like in the morning when they hear me get on the bus and say Boker Tov, everybody knows that that's good morning. So.
How long a flight is that from?
The flight from Newark to Tel Aviv is about 10 hours.
Yeah.
Yes, it's a long flight.
Is it an overnight? Like if you were going to Europe?
Well, we leave at 3:55 in the evening or afternoon, and then we arrive at, I think, 9:20 in the morning.
That's what you said.
Israel time.
Yeah.
So there's a 7-hour distance, or 7-hour difference. So if we're leaving at 3:55, that's 10:55 Israel time. So you can see it's a good 10-hour flight if we're arriving at 9:20.
I'm writing down 7-hour difference, so I know when to expect tasks from my boss.
Yes.
Well, I will have my watch set to world time, so I can quickly look and go, oh, it's 3 in the afternoon in Camden. I can make sure I can bother somebody now.
Yes.
Yeah, just before you go to bed.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And then you can't respond. Well, you can, but I won't see it for 7 hours.
Right.
So this trip is actually in 2 parts. There's the Holy Land, and then there's an extension into Italy. So Assisi and Rome. So did we hit the last day? Did we talk?
We
about
did, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So as Mike said, half of the group will leave on Saturday the 18th, which again is the Sabbath. So it's a perfect day for traveling to the airport. There is nobody in the airport on the Sabbath. It makes it a much easier experience for everybody. The group going to Italy, we leave very early in the morning, like in the middle of the night, and take the flight to Italy. Or to Rome. The other group leaves a little bit later than we, and they will fly directly back to Newark, and then be transported by Albert's Limousine Company to back down to Mantua to Incarnation. Father Gormley, who is going on the pilgrimage, graciously is allowing us to park our cars there or to use that as a meeting place for the trip. And but the group of us that ends up in Italy. We will arrive. We'll meet our guide, named Federica. She's a lovely, lovely woman, and she will, explain a little bit about Italy to everybody as we get on the bus, and we make our way from Fiumicino Airport to Assisi. We're actually staying in the town of Santa Maria dei Angeli, which is in the valley below Assisi, and it's the site of the Porziuncola, which is this little stone church that was central to the life of St. Francis and to the community, because they gathered in that area. That's where they lived, and that's where Francis died. So it's kind of like the first generalate of the Franciscan community. And there's a huge basilica built over the Porziuncola that is a Baroque church, and we are literally a block and a half from the basilica. So we'll have mass there when we arrive. And then we have our hotel, and then people can go back actually every Saturday evening out front of the basilica. They have a candlelight procession and the recitation of the rosary. So, a lot of people will go back down for that. And then the next day, we spend the full day in Assisi. So we'll visit the Basilica of St. Francis. We'll visit the Basilica of St. Clair. And all different points in between, have some free time, for people to shop and to get something to eat on their own before we make our way in the late afternoon back to the hotel for dinner and overnight. Then we go up the next day and we make our way to Rome. And by the time we get there, it'll be mid-afternoon, I would assume, maybe early afternoon. They'll take us on a city tour by bus. And I think that we're scheduled to visit. No, we have no visits on that day. So, we'll have an opportunity to walk down to St. Peter's. Our hotel is on the Borgo Pio, which is right down from the main gate that leads to the Vatican called the Porta Santa Ana. And so the hotel is very well situated for Catholics who are visiting Rome. And it's a lovely boutique hotel. They treat us very, very well there. We'll have dinner in local restaurants. The hotel does not. They have breakfast, but they don't serve dinner. So we'll have dinner that night in a local restaurant. And then the next day we get up and we visit the Vatican museums, and then the Basilica of St. Paul outside the walls, and the catacombs. So that'll be a very, very full day. And then on Wednesday, which is our last full day in Rome, we get up for the papal audience in St. Peter's Square. And then we will go to Piazza Navona, to the Basilica of St. John Lateran, the Basilica of St. Mary Major. So we will have completed the 4 major basilicas, which enables people to obtain an indulgence. But you have to go to confession. You have to be resolved not to sin anymore, and you have to receive Holy Communion.
Well,
that's also Ash Wednesday. It's also Ash Wednesday. So when we are at the Basilica of St. Mary Major, I think it is, that we have Mass scheduled and the imposition of ashes. And then we will have our farewell dinner that evening. And then on Thursday morning, we get up bright and early to make our way back to Fiumicino Airport and our flight to Newark, and our transportation back to Incarnation and Mantua.
Yeah, we get up at 9 a.m. and we're back by 1 p.m.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
we leave at 9
a.m., right?
Oh.
Leave at 9 a.m. and we get back at 1 p.m.
Right.
And then you'll sleep for the
So it's a
rest of the
4-hour
day.
flight.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a 4-hour flight.
10-hour flight. You touched on it very briefly. The places that we're going to be staying at are in the Holy Land. They're actually Christian hotels, right?
Yes.
Which is
a little bit different than ordinary. A lot of times, especially in Jerusalem, you'll say they have very, very big tourist hotels or pilgrimage hotels they're Israeli owned, but they are, for the most part, those who are waiters and waitresses in the hotels are Palestinians. But regardless, Israel has kosher regulations that apply to all restaurants that Jewish people would frequent. So if you were going to a specifically Muslim restaurant, they have halal, which is very similar to kosher, but they would not be under the mandatory laws of Israel, because Jewish people are not going to go to a restaurant like that. But the rest of the restaurants have to follow kosher. But these Christian hotels, I don't believe that they follow it as strictly. Mm-hmm. So things like, I always remind people, that if you, in the afternoon or the evening at dinner time, if you want a cup of coffee, you're not going to get cream with your coffee, because the rules have it separated so that in the morning you have dairy and no meat. So there are no meats served in the morning. In the evening time, you have meats but no dairy. So they have it very, very. And you don't even realize it, except if you want cream in your coffee, or if you want a dish of ice cream or something like that, you're not getting it. Because you can't have your roasted chicken and then have dairy. That's forbidden under Jewish regulations.
So we are recording this roughly 1 week from departure. So the people who are listening to this, probably are not going to be able to go on this trip. Everything's sort of locked down at this point. However, Father Hughes runs pilgrimages with great regularity. So if what you've been listening to is something that you want to go to, I want to let you know that you should really avail yourself of it. And
the Holy Land in particular is every other year. So the next one, the dates are not selected yet, but the next visit to the Holy Land will be in 2025. And it'll be in February, at some point. But it's actually the granddaddy of all tours, because we're going to do Egypt, then Jordan, and then the Holy Land. So it won't go to Italy this time. It'll be Egypt, Jordan, and the Holy Land. There are 3 different tours. So somebody could do just Egypt, somebody could do just Jordan, somebody could do just the Holy Land.
Oh, no.
Or you can piece them together. But it would be difficult to do
20 days.
20 days.
Yeah, that's a 20-day pilgrimage.
I would also like to say, can I be considered for that? I would like to take the place of Mike Walsh in 2 years. On this trip only. On this trip only.
Now you say that, but listen, there are other opportunities too. There is the Greek pilgrimage that's taking place later this year.
So that's in October. That's the footsteps of St. Paul. So that'll focus on the scriptures that Paul wrote and the locations that he visited.
And then now you've already done one of these. I don't know if you've done any more, but next year you have Fatima, Spain, Lourdes, and Paris.
That's in the fall. That'll be in October of 2024, and in the summertime of 2024 is Scotland. That's not that's a different company that we use for that tour, but they'll be in late July, August of 2024 is a trip to Scotland.
Yeah. Now, if you've these pilgrimages, not the Scotland tour, but the other pilgrimage we talked about, if you are interested in going on one of these, you can go to pilgrimages.com/Father Hughes. That's FRHUGHES, and learn more and be able to book them and see more about I actually downloaded the itinerary for this one off of that because I keep forgetting where we're going every day.
Well, there's a lot in there.
It is. Now that you've been a part of this, you realize just how intense it is, and each day there's a lot to it. Does it ever, in the few minutes we have left, do any of the pilgrims get overwhelmed? I mean, it's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, you have to take it at your own pace. I mean, we have all different people that go on these pilgrimages at all different points in their life. And Rami, who is our tour guide in Israel, he's superb. And, he'll be quite honest. If he thinks that you can't do something, he'll let you know that this might be more difficult than you're able to do. But then he'll figure out something that you can do while the group is doing whatever they need to do.
Oh, that's really good.
Or if somebody on every pilgrimage, I would say, somebody at one point just says, "I need a breather day," and they exempt themselves from the activities. That's completely fine. I mean, there's no expectation that everybody has to do all of it. If you need a day to yourself and you need quiet time, to reflect, we accommodate that. So.
Now, Mike, when you're in Rome and you're in these basilicas and these beautiful churches, remember to look at the artwork, because you'll be amazed that you're walking next to a Bernini or a Michelangelo or Raphael. So keep your eyes open.
I have a feeling that's not the thing we need to worry about.
You keeping your eyes open?
No, she uttered yesterday we were discussing the podcast and sort of preparing for it, and she's like, "Now, Mike, while you're there, are you actually going to open your heart to be touched by the things that you saw?"
I did say that.
And I thought about it for a moment. I was like,
"Does he have a heart?"
Well, that was what I said. I said, "Will the spleen count?"
I said, as long as it's not the liver, because the liver
filters everything out
and it won't stay.
Liver,
so yeah.
Fine. No, I'm genuinely looking for. I don't know how I'm going to react to it. I may be the guy in tears all the time.
I hope so.
My money's not on that, but
I hope so. I'm just saying, when I was in Rome, I was floored by the idea that already I'm in the church, and then all of a sudden I would just turn around and be like, "Wow, that's beautiful," and then I'd look and I'd be like, "Holy moly, I'm looking at a Bernini."
Yeah.
So it's like you're walking past these things that we only study about here. So that was my point of that.
I want to make a point too is, one of the questions that comes up frequently about Catholic pilgrimages is, can non-Catholics go on these pilgrimages? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. Anyone is welcome to join these pilgrimages, and as I said, we accommodate. If a person is not Catholic and doesn't want to participate in Mass every day or any of the days, that's completely up to them. Even for Catholics, I mean, if a Catholic decides they don't want to participate in Mass, that's up to them, and we don't make any judgment about that. And as I said, we accommodate that. So anybody is welcome on these pilgrimages.
Don't worry, I'm going to Mass every day.
No, I didn't look at you like that.
You're looking like I was going to not go.
No, I'm so excited after hearing this podcast that you're getting this opportunity, and anybody else that's going. And again, I would just encourage everybody to go to pilgrimages.com/Father Hughes just to see what else is coming up, because
I will admit,
it's going to be phenomenal.
I'm genuinely, as the days get closer, I'm actually starting to get a little overwhelmed, and not in a bad way. I mean, and I'm like, I can't believe this opportunity's presented itself to me, and I'm so happy that I get to go. I really am.
Just like the Grinch, his heart is growing already.
Give me a minute. We'll see what happens when I show up 2 weeks from now.
I like to think that Father Hughes had some, foresight into, why you're going.
I think he knows where my shortcomings are. I think he knows what's hoping what happens here. Well, Father, thank you very much for joining us on the podcast. This was great. Yeah, for anyone, Father Hughes has been on this podcast a couple of times to talk about pilgrimages, just because we enjoy it. But this one we knew was going to be special. So, and I will probably be doing more than a few things while I'm there. I'll probably do some video packages with people, other pilgrims who are on the event or on the pilgrimage. So keep an eye out for all that stuff. But thank you, Jen, for joining us today, and listeners, thank you very much. And who knows, a different person may come back in a few weeks or not. Anyway, see you, everybody. Have a great week.
God bless.